Hi, I'm Mike Maloney, and welcome to another CSRM podcast. Today's episode is hosted by Dr. Greg Linville.
All right, and we are recording, and we'll be going, and we will begin in 5, 4, 3.
Hello everyone, my name is Dan Stoffer and I am with CSRM. Maybe you're watching this as a podcast, or maybe you wandered on our website and you're wondering what in the world certification is. And so I'm joined with 3 doctors today, and I'm excited. And we're going to learn a lot about our academic partnerships, certification. Maybe that's what you're looking for. Maybe that's why you stopped at our website. And so why don't we just kind of go around here and you guys can introduce yourself. I'll start with a friend to my left here, Mr. Viposa, but doctor, kind of tell us a little bit who you are and maybe a little bit of your role with CSRM, and then we'll do the same on down the road, and we'll talk about our Agone Institute, certification, and also academic partnerships. So, Viposa?
Well, I'm Viposa from Nagaland, South Asia, and I'm here at Agone to teach on the sports theology and competition, along with colleagues here, 2 doctors. I'm privileged to be part of this Agone journey.
Hi, I'm Dr. Vicky and I'm from Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I also serve on staff with CSRM as the academic partner and mentoring director.
And Greg Linville, and I serve as the Director of Resource Development. So all of you, I will send you a pledge card and you can donate all kinds of money, but that's not what resources mean in this case. It's the resources that we produce for other people. We have our own publishing house, we have the Agone Institute for further training for people. That's the purpose of this. And we have our recording studio and all kinds of things. So, and you undersold yourself. You also do many things for CSRM.
I do.
Yes, and you are a sports minister, and you've been a collegiate athlete, as have you. And so you guys are underselling yourselves a little bit. What else do you do?
Yes, basically I train the leaders, particularly the church leaders on sports ministry. So that's what I do. I also engage in the few theological colleges, training the future leaders on sports theology.
That's fantastic. And I heard you say that there are over 1,700 sports ministers under your influence. Is that correct? Or a lot?
So basically there are a lot of churches that we are currently involved with. But at the moment there is a church and a council that are ready to take up sports ministry, and so they're looking for our guidance. And so there are, in that association, in that council, there are 1,700 churches.
Wow.
And so I'm privileged to be taking the convenership to see how best we can help the churches to start sports ministry in all these local churches.
Yeah. And so that's why CSRM exists. We want to equip the local church, and we want to train up leaders and future leaders in this very important ministry. And so that's why these 3 doctors are gathered here. So it's Dan and the doctors. And we're excited to learn more about what's happening. And Dr. Linville, I want to start with you, because you mentioned resources. And a lot of what we have are resources to help train people. But you were kind of the brainchild behind the birthing of this ministry and these different resources. So let's just start there. When it comes to furthering someone's education into something with sports ministry, how did this all come about, and what does CSRM currently have?
I'll answer that last thing.
Okay.
Last.
Start there. Yep.
But
okay.
The important thing to know is that, as you all can attest, sports ministers and sports outreach ministers, not to be confused with governmental agencies like sports ministry is in many countries, we have often been seen as second class. You guys or gals, you just go play and pray. and you play and then you might pray. And we are dealing, because we want to equip local congregations around the world, we're dealing with denominational leaders, senior lead pastors, all kinds of other people, and they're saying, but what do you know about soteriology?
Mm-hmm.
And too often, the sports outreach minister in a local church can't spell it. They don't even, and so we're trying to help our people have a background and a foundation that would be equal to anybody else that's on a staff position in a church or in a denomination. But not just so that they can say, I know it, but because they understand it to the point where they can actually go do the things that will effectively reach people who are far from Jesus and his church. Because we believe that if they know this theological truths, Christocentric, Christ-centered theological truths, that's going to inform them to know how to go out and effectively reach the world for Jesus. So yes, the fringe benefit is that they can interact with their lead pastor, but the real essence is so that they can really be effective in accomplishing the Great Commission.
Yeah. And so what avenues do we have right now for that further training? Greg, I sat under your leadership at a university 20-some years ago, hard to believe. But CSRM is now bringing some options for people.
That's right.
So tell us what we've had in the past, and then kind of where we're headed in the future, especially now as Vicky has come on board.
That's right.
And it's helping, yeah.
And you've been through years of counseling from all of those years in my classes, and you've done quite well for yourself. We have this Agon Institute. It's the Greek word in the New Testament for the athletic experience and struggle. And we get the word agony because, you know, we're struggling to do this. And it is a struggle. But with these pieces of information, it can be much easier.
Yeah.
And so the Agon has a couple of different ways that people can engage, further educated, and therefore further prepared. There is the upper level that would be degrees, that they can actually get their next degree. And then there's certification as well. First of all, let's explain a certification, because certification means different things in different parts of the world. And in some places, certification is all that a person might need. Certain cultures that it's very difficult to get a degree, very expensive. There aren't universities, they don't have the access. Certification is often what is needed. But it's typically less hours, less work, less finance. It's in that level. There's two levels of certification. We offer one within CSRM, and that is there's a certain amount of clock hours, and Dr. Byler might be able to say more where we're at, because these things are somewhat moving targets depending upon where we're at, but it's been about 30 or so clock hours that you take a seminar, you read a book, you have a personal mentor, you grab hold of these things. And it has been a couple $100 American. You get the books, and then after this, you become certified. And again, depending on when you're watching this or listening to this, it may change a little bit from these figures. But it's the sports outreach minister certification. And then you get the certification from an academic institution. That typically is more hours, it's more work, and it's typically more money. It could be 10 times as much money and 10 times as much work. It depends on what level you need and where you want to go. You can actually do them both together. And if you do the academic side of it, you would get the CSRM 1. That would be certification. And then we pitch our degree at the master's level, so that we can go either direction with it. Meaning that if you want to take it for a bachelor's degree, we dumb it down. Or if you want to take it for a doctorate, we dumb it up.
Yeah.
And so that people can take these for that. The last thing that I'll say is that, how do you do that latter one? The latter one is you have to get a university, seminary, Bible college who would agree to the curriculum, the Agone curriculum, and the Agone professors, and then that would be a substitute. You would substitute this course for the one that's required in your degree. Often it's an advanced topic, it's a research project, it's called different things in different places, but then you have to have your academic dean in your university say, yes, we will take that for this. And then what we do is we have 8 courses that we teach, the 3 of us, and we have Viposa and myself who are the official. Vicky is coming on as a co, and soon will be right there with us, and we've also got Rob Burns out of Wales that is coming on, and every one of our professors are being trained in it and then being able to take it to the world.
Yeah.
So you can take the course with us, apply it to your university. We do have one right now, and again, depending on when you watch this,
Yeah.
that there's a very good possibility that they're going to offer it as a degree there as well. We leave it nameless until that's an official thing.
Yeah.
But where do you want to go from that?
Yeah, I think the transition naturally, Dr. Byler, kind of tell us about your role with academic partnerships. Greg mentioned there's one institution that we're working with now, but if people are interested in this and potentially getting connected with some university somewhere, what do you see happening in the future? How can I do that now? What's your role to play to help people pursue that, or to help universities if they're interested in partnering with us? What would they do?
That's a great question. How I got connected with CSRM was because I was at an academic institution and we reached out and became members. At that time, you had to become a member as an institution. And that connected me to the summit, to all of CSRM's resources. And things have changed a little bit since then, but I have a whole list that was passed on to me of academic institutions that I plan to connect with. I just officially started my role in July, I believe.
Yeah.
And so I'm still getting my feet wet on a lot of that, but I feel like I hit the ground running and trying to make those connections. But the hope is that we can reach out to these institutions and let them know what resources are available. We want to connect with students. We'd love to see students get more involved. And then just being a resource for people through the website, you can contact us and we can explain some of these options a little more in detail and find the right place for you.
And how about certification? If someone's like, I'm not sure about a master's, but I'd love to get certified, how would they go about doing that or finding information about that?
Sure. There's a page on the website that is for certification. It outlines why that might be important and not how it might be important, why it is important, and how to connect with us on that. Someone might start out as with certification. The hope as we connect with some of these other institutions is that it might start out as a certification program, but it would grow into a degree program. And if anybody knows anything about the academic world, there's lots of hoops to jump through to get a program certified through their state, through their country, even in the theological settings there. And so you can't just decide to have a program and tomorrow it's a degree program. So with the background that the 3 of us have, though, in education, in higher education, we've been through those hoops many times, developing programs ourselves, and so I'm just really excited about those opportunities.
And we've got a wealth of knowledge here and a wealth of resources as well that could really help you out. Viposa, from an international perspective, which you bring, and thinking about how we can broaden this to help people all around the world, how does your perspective help people in other countries based upon what you've been trained in and how you're currently helping people? Basically, why would people want to listen to you as their professor? Because I think you have a lot to offer them.
Yeah, I think the first thing is sports is a language that everyone understands. So that brings people's attention to look at this. And now, as we look at the different continents, I think we are speaking the same language. But when it comes to Agone, we see something. Why we do what we do is, I think we are connecting and we are trying to speak the language of the church leaders. That has been missing. The pastors need to know, need to really understand the language that we are speaking here, and that language is the theology. So that's now that's when you get into that, then it doesn't matter whether you are from Africa, you are from West or Asia. I think everybody get to see the core need of that.
Absolutely, yeah. It's the foundation of the theology, and I think Dr. Linville mentioned it earlier. It brings credence to what we do. If you work with elders or a senior pastor, and they don't maybe necessarily value sports ministry, when they find out how you've been educated and how you've been trained, and you can have a conversation with them about some of those big ology words that you mentioned earlier, it just helps. It helps the sports minister. And I think the perspective we have right here can be translated, you're absolutely right, anywhere in the world. It's very, very helpful. We have just a couple minutes left, so I'd love to just kind of open up this conversation. Maybe we have someone who stumbled on this website or they're listening to this podcast, and maybe they're considering a career change. Maybe they never thought about sports ministry, and they're doing some Google searches and they somehow found this, or a friend passed on this podcast. How would you encourage them? Practically, yes, go to our website, absolutely. Get in touch with us, but beyond that, how would you encourage them to take that next step? Because you all did it. I did it, but how would you nudge them? How could the Holy Spirit use you in this moment to get someone to further their education and get trained?
I really believe that God gives us gifts and abilities and puts those passions in our heart, and they're not just for self-pleasure, they're for for ministry. And so if God has nudged you a little bit to use the gifts that you had and to be excellent in that, I think sport ministry is a great avenue. It's something all of us have done our whole lives. We played as athletes and competed, and just had a love for that, and saw coaches that invested in us, and then we wanted to do the same. And so I think that just keeps passing the torch from one generation to the next.
Absolutely. Well said.
And I don't know if you want to cover this now or we do another podcast, but it would be helpful, I think, as people are considering this, to think about what are the actual courses that we teach, and in those courses, what do we actually teach.
Yeah.
And we also want to say that there's a whole lot of difference between having a head knowledge and actually being able to go out and do it. And there's also some things there that we talk about transition. But if you're thinking about this, to your question, you're thinking about it, and you love sport and you love reaching people for Jesus, this is for you. And we can help you figure out the particulars of how to go that direction.
Yeah. We'll extend this a little bit, because I do think it's important, and we'll come back to any words of advice that you may have to help people. But I would love to hear, I think for anybody watching this or listening to this, so what courses are there, and why are they valuable? Let's kind of walk through.
Eight courses.
8 courses, okay.
And they're broken up into 4 basic categories, 2 courses in each of the 4. The theology and ethics. So the first one is 6 weeks on the theology of sport and competition. If you can't biblically justify competition, then you can't biblically justify sport. And then which sports and what activities in every sport, all of that is what we talk about. Jesus in competition, Paul in competition, that's the theology course. And then the ethics course we call Christmanship. How do we actually go about competing as a coach, as an athlete? How do we actually go about it? So for the local church sports minister, if you don't have a theology of how to do that, you don't know how to organize your leagues or your camps or your clinics or anything. So that's the first 2. The second 2 then are what we call models, ancient models, modern models. The ancient models are basically the first 5 or 6 centuries. How did the early church intersect the sport? What was the thinking of the Jewish community, the Roman community, the Greek community, and then the emerging Christian community. And so we learned some lessons there, and then we jump up to the 1800s, up from 1800 to modern day, whatever year we're teaching it. The individuals, the paraministries, the churches, all these different models for sports outreach, and those are the two. What models have really been effective, which ones haven't been, and which ones are in transition? Maybe it was in the 1950s or 1980s or 2010s, but maybe it's not anymore. So how are these things trending? And then the third set is what we call the A and O, the administration and organization. How do we raise the money? How do we organize and build our facilities? How do we do the leadership principles? The organization is more, how do we run a league? How do we do the camp? It's the nuts and bolts of actually going in. How do we do the summer Lego camp with grandparents and kids?
Yeah.
It's all of that. And so you have those three, and then we have, of course, evangelism, disciple making. So we call it evangelistic disciple making. So how do we actually do the evangelism? What does it mean to get somebody saved? What does it mean to get somebody to join the church? How do we actually take people to full spiritual maturity using sports, rec, and fitness? So those are the four broken down into two each. We do them currently, as of the taping of today, we do them currently on Mondays. We do it on a time frame that everybody from Hawaii and the Pacific all the way through Asia doesn't have to take it at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
It may be 6 a.m. and it may be 10 p.m. because we've got all these time zones, and we literally have people from all around the world on these. And we even have them from foreign countries like California. So, yeah.
It is a foreign country. Viposa, I'd love to hear, first of all, what's your favorite class to teach and that you took? And then any words of hope for anybody who's considering this? Like, really could be anybody around the world, any student that you would try to push towards pursuing this. So, favorite class to teach and that you took, and then words of wisdom for anybody who's considering going down this path.
So quickly, of course, I love teaching on the leadership part and the disciple making part. So that's being my favorite subject, and I always love that with the experience that I went through. I think many people have this question in their mind: do I need to be a sport woman to do sports ministry? I think that's being a question for many people. And so there are ways that we can really get ourselves connected to. I was never a player or a sport person in my childhood. I just got connected to this because I attended one of the conferences, and that's how I get that picture of the whole thing. And so I think anyone can just get into it. And there are a few people that they can just see around what is happening with sports ministries. There are people who also get engaged with the resources that we have created. They can just read through and then just get connected. Even if they can't really go for the course, just give it a try. Taste it and see. And I want to just also say that this Agon is not being American.
Yes.
The fact that I being here at this Agon is the answer to that. It's being contextual for every continent. So yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of what we do, well, all of it translates, right? Just like you were saying earlier, sports is the universal language, and so there's so much opportunity there, and the principles that are taught can apply to anyone. Yeah.
And to that point, we talked about our three-tier paradigm.
Yes, yeah.
Level 1, Christocentric truths. What do we believe? What do we think? How do we envision? That inform a level 2, philosophical principles. How do we organize that? When do we do it? Where do we do it? With whom do we do it? How do we do it? So you come out of what we believe to what we start to organize, and then finally what we do. And what we've found is that on that level 1, probably 90+% is an agreement all around the world, even in California. and we have that level 2 probably where 70-80% I don't know, these figures haven't been researched, but it's a majority. But then it's at that level 3, what do we do? It's as diverse as can be.
Yeah.
But unless you know level 1 and 2, you can't get your level 3 to be efficient, effective, strategic, relevant. And so that's why there's something unique about how we go about this. And so if people want to take this and they want to get their certification, all they have to do is show up for 6 weeks at a time for the 8 courses, rotating about every 18 months. You jump in wherever we're at, then you take the next 8 courses, and you're in a cohort, but every time there's a couple students that drop off and a couple more that join.
Yeah.
So you have all of that. That's how you do it. If you're going to take it for a degree, then you have to watch additional videos, you have to do additional work, you have to read additional books, but that's basically what you need to know.
Yeah. It's a great opportunity, and it's an opportunity, again, if you feel the Lord nudging you, whether it be a second career, furthering your education, wherever you may live in the world, there's opportunity here. And so we're out of time, unfortunately, but I really appreciate you guys spending some time with us. If you're watching this and want to know more about how you can take that next step, furthering your education, your training, you can visit our website, csrm.org. Look for certification or academic partnerships, or just email one of us. You can see our staff there and click on a name and email someone, and we'll get you in touch with Dr. Vicky Byler, and she'll make sure that you get to the right place. Greg, you were going to say something?
Really quickly,
Yeah.
This could also be for other professors, not just students.
Yes.
If a professor
Let's add
wanted
a
to
team.
join us, there's
Yep.
ways to do that too.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll get you in touch. If you're interested in this and have any experience in it, or even if you don't, you just want to know more about being a part of this team, please reach out to us. So that's all the time we have for this episode, and we thank you so much for tuning in. We'll catch you next time. Take care.
The CSRM podcast is a production of CSRM and their production house, Overwhelming Victory. Dr. Greg Linville is the executive producer, and Scott Stedman is the associate producer and editor. To learn more about CSRM, visit csrm.org. For more information about Overwhelming Victory, visit overwhelmingvictory.org. The CSRM podcast is the flagship member of the podcast network Overwhelming Victory Radio. For more information on Overwhelming Victory Radio, or to listen to our partner podcasts, visit overwhelmingvictory.org/OV Radio. For CSRM Podcasts, I'm Mike Maloney. Have a blessed day.